It seems every year there are second-year players who break out in ways we didn't expect, and this all started a few years ago when Carson Wentz went from a 7-9 starter as a rookie to leading the Eagles to the number 1 seed in his second season. He ended up getting hurt, but the trend followed the next year when Patrick Mahomes, who made only one start in his rookie season, threw for 50 touchdowns and 5,000 passing yards and became the face of the NFL seemingly overnight. 2019 was no exception, as Lamar Jackson went from a player who people labeled as a player that couldn't throw, and he ended up winning the MVP. Players have been using their second year in the NFL to break out and really become stars, and that's what we're going to discuss in today's video, is second-year players from the 2019 draft class that can burst onto the scene similar to how these other aforementioned players have. But before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. Let's get this clear before I start with a quarterback. I'm including multiple quarterbacks from the 2019 draft class, and that doesn't mean I think they'll be an MVP like Mahomes and Lamar were. I just think they're ready to take the next step in their pro careers. Now, the first player who's ready to step up in 2020 is Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. This may sound crazy, but in his rookie year, Daniel Jones had as many touchdown passes as Tom Brady did in 2019 on 154 less passing attempts. The Giants received an insane amount of criticism when they drafted Daniel Jones 6th overall, but 1 year into his career, he looks great, especially compared to what draft critics were saying at the time. This offseason, the Giants helped Daniel and Saquon Barkley out by drafting a franchise tackle number 4 overall in Andrew Thomas. Jones should take another step forward in year number 2, and believe it or not, 30 touchdowns isn't out of the equation in 2020 for him. Darius Slayton looks to be one of the biggest steals in the 2019 draft, and Evan Ingram will still be the team's starting tight end. Saquon had 91 catches in his rookie season, so to think he could lead the team in catches again isn't unrealistic, and all of this culminates in Daniel Jones having a big second year. The next player who could have a huge second season is Chiefs wide receiver McCall Hardman. In his rookie season, McCall had over 500 yards receiving and averaged an insane 20 yards per catch. He is known for having elite speed, and in an offense where speed is a primary weapon, McCall could have a huge year in 2020. The only problems he'll run into is having players like Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and now Clyde Edwards-Helaire get the ball, and due to this, McCall might not get the touches he needs to have to be a big contributor in 2020. His career high in catches in a single game is just 4, but that's something he accomplished 3 times in 2019. Hardman is the perfect player for the Chiefs offense and to pair with a quarterback like Pat Mahomes, and if they get him even 55 catches in 2020, just 3.4 per game, he very well could be a 1,000-yard wide receiver. McCall is the perfect player behind Tyreek and Travis, and if the Chiefs scheme him looks more often in 2020 than they did in 2019, he will flourish. The next player who could break out is Redskins defensive end Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat had a very good rookie season, which included 50 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 7 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. The Redskins undoubtedly have one of, if not the best defensive line of football, with him, Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Ryan Kerrigan, Matt Ioannidis, and now Chase Young. With all of the mentioned players on the defensive line, Montez is in a perfect position to break out. The problem offensive lines will have is choosing who to double team, and more often than not, I would imagine Chase Young, even early on in his career, will receive that more so than Sweat. Montez is in a position like Patrick Mahomes was when he took over the Chiefs job in 2018. He has great talent, but it also helps when the players around him put him in the best position to succeed due to his strengths, which is rushing the quarterback. And that's not to discredit Pat or compare Montez to Pat, it's just a similar situation he will be in 2020. Sweat could very easily have 13 sacks this year and truly break out and have a Pro Bowl caliber campaign. The next sophomore who could break out is Seahawks receiver DK Metcalf. DK had a solid rookie season in which he had 900 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. But 2020 is the year I think we see DK truly break out and become a true number 1 wide receiver. He had 5 games in his rookie season where he had under 40 receiving yards, and I don't expect that to continue into 2020. In his first ever playoff game, he went for 160 yards and a touchdown, and in his second game, he went for 59 yards. Between year 1 and year 2, he should make a jump like we've seen over the past few years with receivers like DJ Moore and DJ Chark. However, these players didn't have a quarterback like Russell Wilson throwing them the football, and that's a huge reason I think Metcalf can have a minimum 1,200 yard year. His ceiling is much higher than Tyler Lockett's, and at only 22 years old, he could string together multiple 1,000 yard years starting in 2020. It always helps when the quarterback is an MVP caliber player at himself, and because of that and a promising rookie season, DK is in a prime position to break out and be a 1,200 yard 10 touchdown player this year. The next player who is in a prime position to break out in 2020 is Steelers wide receiver Deonte Johnson. In his rookie season, Deonte was a relatively productive player as he had 680 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns, with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges throwing to him for most of the season. With Big Ben coming back in 2020, Deonte should improve with improved quarterback play, and we saw what Juju Smith-Schuster did with Ben as a number 2 option in the first 2 years of his career. Juju put up over 2,300 yards and 14 touchdowns, and while I don't think Deonte can put up the 111 catch, 1,400 yard season Juju did in 2018, I don't think it's out of the equation for him to have an 85 catch, 1,000 yard year in 2020. Deonte established himself as the clear number 2 last year, and it's very possible he breaks out this upcoming season. The next player who could break out in 2020 is Broncos quarterback Drew Lock. Drew finished his rookie season 4-1 as a starter and already had Courtland Sutton and Noah Fant to help him grow as a player in the future. As if that wasn't enough, the Broncos added Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler to the offense, and with those 2 players along with the aforementioned Sutton and Fant, this offense becomes nearly unstoppable. If Drew can carry over his late 2019 success into 2020, it's not unrealistic to think the Broncos could become a wildcard team this year. I don't think they'll win the division as they still have to compete with Patrick and the Chiefs, but it's not out of the equation for Drew Lock to throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in year 2 while leading Denver to 10-11 wins. With all of the weapons around him combined with the natural progression he should have from year 1 to year 2, Drew Lock is in a prime position to succeed in 2020 and ultimately lead the Broncos to the playoffs. The next player in a prime position to break out in 2020 is Bills running back Devin Singletary. Devin averaged over 5 yards per carry last season on only 151 carries. He led the team in rushing with 775 yards. Frank Gore had the most carries on the team and averaged a measly 3.6 yards per carry. The Bills brought in running back Zach Moss in the 3rd round of the draft, and while he will get some carries, Devin should still be in a position to break out and have a 1,000 yard year. He played in only 12 games in his rookie season and only had double-digit carries in 7 of those games. While he will split carries with Zach Moss and Josh Allen for that matter, he should receive more than an average of 12 carries per game and should have 1,000 rushing yards alone in 2020. If he doesn't reach 1,000 rushing, he will more than likely have over 1,000 total yards, as he nearly had that in his rookie season in 75% of the games with 944 total yards. Singletary is in a good position to break out this year and be the Bills' starting running back for the next couple of years. The final player who can grow in year 2 is Ravens receiver Marquise Brown. Hollywood in year 1 had 46 catches for 584 yards and 7 touchdowns. He had an impressive 147-yard 2-touchdown performance in his NFL debut in a game the Ravens beat Miami 59-0. He followed it up with an 8-catch, 86-yard performance in week 2. With 43% of his season's totals coming in the first 2 weeks, I would expect Hollywood to try and be more consistent in year number 2, as he had 7 games under 25 receiving yards in 2019. To be clear, that's not his fault, as the Ravens' run game was working down the stretch, and they simply did not need Hollywood to be a number 1 receiver like his cousin Antonio and put up 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns. With more familiarity in the Ravens system and only increasing his chemistry with MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson, I don't think it's out of the question for Hollywood to have 1,000 yards in year number 2. One would also have to think the Ravens will want Lamar to stay in the pocket more as he gets older and into the league, as the more he continues to run, the higher chance he gets hurt. It's simple math here. If Lamar runs the ball 176 times in 2020, like he did in 2019, there's more of a chance for him to get hurt than only running it 60 or 70 times. And that's not to say the Ravens should make him a pocket passer, because he won an MVP being a scrambler. But down the road, Lamar will have to become more of a pocket passer, there's no doubt. And if he runs the ball less in 2020, 2020, then Hollywood and Mark Andrews, for that matter, will be the direct beneficiaries. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I also want to get something clear. If I left a player you like out, such as a Terry McLaurin or a Miles Sanders or whoever, that doesn't mean I don't think they have potential to reach a Pro Bowl or have a good 2020. I just did not include them in today's video. Now, with that being said, that's all I have. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. It helps out a ton. And subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.